Good morning and a very warm welcome to the third Farm Africa live webinar of this series. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Will Evans, and as well as producing and hosting a podcast called Rock and Roll Farming, I am also primarily a farmer of beef cattle and arable crops. And last year, seems a very long time ago now, I was part of the National Farmers Union team that ran the London Marathon to raise money for Farm Africa's Coffee is Life appeal. Now, let's go through the technical stuff first before we get started. I want to let you know, first of all, that this webinar is being recorded. If you happen to drop off the webinar, do try the Zoom link to join again. And if you continue to experience technical problems, don't worry at all, as this is being recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. Also, if we experience any difficulty with the picture quality or sound from our speakers, please be patient with us and we will try to rectify this as soon as possible. We are taking your questions for the panel today, so do use the Q&A function to submit these. You can submit them at any point during the webinar, and do make sure you are adding your questions to the Q&A function rather than in the chat box, please. Do also tell us your name when asking a question. It's nice to know who you are and maybe where you are in the world. Or feel free to keep it anonymous if you'd prefer. Apologies though if we don't get round to your question, but we will try to answer as many as we can at the end in the time we have. So let's meet the farmers themselves, and we will start off with the NFU team here in the UK. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, where you're broadcasting from in the country, and your role at the NFU. So Minette, perhaps you could go first, please.
Will, thanks so much, and a very good morning, everyone. So I'm farming in South Wiltshire near Salisbury, and I'm president of the National Farmers Union of England and Wales, and also a great honour to me to be a trustee of Farm Africa, a charity which I passionately believe in. I still vividly, though, remember the pain of running the marathon. So I want to do many things to help, but marathon running, I'm not so sure about anymore. But great to be here with you today, Will. Thanks.
And what about you, Stuart? Where are you in the country, and what's your role at the NFU?
So Stuart Roberts. I'm farming beef cattle, sheep and cereals in Hertfordshire. I'm deputy president of the NFU. And unlike Minette, probably the pain can't have been quite so bad for me, because I am now signed up, I think, to do my third marathon for Farm Africa. The reason the pain was not so bad for me is I just went a lot slower.
Okay, and Rachel, perhaps you can go next, please.
Hi, so I'm Northeast Regional Chair for the NFU, and I farm with my family in a place called Ripondon in West Yorkshire, and we look after beef cows and sheep. And I don't run, I'm afraid. I'm not very good at running, so I'm sorry, Farm Africa. Maybe one day.
That's no excuse, Rachel, because none of us are very good at running either.
I think Minette's very good at running.
Away.
Okay, last but not least, Adam, perhaps you could introduce yourself as well.
I'm Adam Bedford. I'm not a farmer, but I work for the NFU as a Northeast Regional Director. So I look after 6,000 farmers across Yorkshire and the northeast of England, and I've run the marathon for Farm Africa before as well.
You've done it a couple of times, haven't you, Stu?
Yeah.
Adam?
I have indeed, yeah. I don't know when I'm doing the next one. I'll have a rest for a little while.
Okay. And let's go over to Kanungu now to meet the farmers over there. Let's start with Patience. Patience, perhaps you could introduce yourself and tell us what cooperative you're working with, please.
Yes, my name is Ninsiima Patience. I'm working as the treasurer of the Organic Farmers Cooperative. I'm a mother of 4 children, and I'm happy to work with Farm Africa.
I've got 4 children as well, Patience. Have you got girls and boys, or have you got all one? That's my fault. Sorry. I've got 4 children as well. What have you got, boys and girls?
No, they're boys. They're all boys.
All boys. Wow. I've got all girls. Okay. Thank you, Patience. Grace, perhaps we can come to you now. Could you introduce yourself, please, and tell us what cooperative you're working with?
I'm called Arineitwe. I have a family of 7 people, 5 children, three are boys, girls. I have 1 adopted one, and adding my husband, a vice chairperson. She's talking next.
We're having a few sound issues there. Are we having a few sound issues? I think there. Apologies for the disruption. Hildah, can you hear me okay? So we'll go to Hildah. Hildah, perhaps you could introduce yourself now, please, and tell us what cooperative you're working with.
I'm called Turyamusiima Hildah, a trainer and a treasurer by Patience Coffee Producers and Processors Cooperative. I'm a farmer. I have an acre of coffee, and I'm a mother of 1 son.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. And also a big thank you to the Farm Africa Kanungu team for helping us to connect today. The team that coordinate the coffee project are Vincent, Benjamin, Daniel, and Irene. So we are here today to talk about Farm Africa's work in Kanungu in Western Uganda to help women thrive in the coffee sector. Back in 2019, Farm Africa ran the Coffee is Life. Lost my screen. The Coffee is Life UK aid match appeal, which all of us on the panel here in the UK were involved in. Most of us ran the London Marathon for the appeal, while very sensibly, Rachel helped out, not by running, as she said, but by being interviewed for Farmers Guardian about her visit to see Farm Africa's work. With the UK government's matched funding to the appeal, Farm Africa is now helping 2,640 women in Kanungu gain access to land to grow coffee on and finance to invest in their coffee businesses and to participate in coffee cooperatives to market their coffee. It is fantastic to have you all with us today. Now, as part of this discussion, we've paired our Ugandan and British farmers on the panel, and we'll first come to Patience and Minette. So first of all, let's have a look at the video from Patience's farm.
My name is Ninsiima Patience. I'm 40 years. I'm a member in the Organic Farmers Cooperative Limited. Before Farm Africa came into our association, we were not practicing good methods of farming, like we didn't manage our gardens of coffee, so we are not having good production. When Farm Africa came in, they introduced to us good methods of farming through trainings, and we learned how to make a good coffee plantation with mulches, pruning, planting shade trees, making trenches, and those helped us to have good yields at the end. My future plans is to have a good booming business after putting into practice all these things we were trained in.
That's fantastic. So we saw in Patience's video there how important it is to have good knowledge about the best way to grow crops in order to ensure good quality. Patience, are there challenges in developing that knowledge?
Yes, here in Kanungu, farmers, we are having challenges about having good knowledge in growing crops and having good produce. And some of those challenges, they include lack of extension services by both the government and private. That is one of the challenges. The next challenge is here farmers are not willing to seek technical knowledge. It is because of the traditional values, and those include the culture, poverty, and illiterate. Another challenge, it is the location of our district, Kanungu, which is bordering here Congo, and there is 500 kilometers from Kampala, and that led to imbalances in having access to agricultural exports. Another challenge is the low profits margins from produce sales, and this leaving imbalance to pay for services like agriculture and the education. Those are some of the challenges here farmers face.
Okay, thank you, Patience. And Minette, how does that compare to some of the challenges we face here in UK farming?
Patience, just to start off by saying I thought your video was absolutely brilliant. You cannot, no matter how much we all talk, a video just brings it to life. You know, that visual element just brings the whole thing to life. And your journey and your story, Will, I think it really resonates. You know, the NFU has been a key player in the World Farmers Organization. And in my role representing English and Welsh farmers, without doubt, the most moving thing I have found is being part of the World Farmers Organization and hearing the challenges. You know, what Patience describes is really no different to what I am describing. You know, she talks about the challenge of taking farmers with her, getting farmers to look for more knowledge, because by building more knowledge, by building your skills, that is what helps you to run a thriving, profitable business that will be good for your family, good for your community. She talks about the challenges of public and private sector, the challenges of government, which I feel the challenges of government at the moment are big in the UK, and the importance and why we ran the marathon to help Patience and others trade. You know, this is so critical, I think, to what we are doing now to help people have access to markets. And I just think that everything that Patience has said is really what I am saying. We face the same challenges in different ways. You know, we face the same challenges of climate change, of the implications of weather. For Patience, it's about growing coffee within all those extremes and dynamics. For me, it's about beef cattle that I am carving in the spring and in the autumn of the year, and trying to get everything right in between. So I just think what it does bring to life is that we share the same challenges. What Patience is talking about is what I am talking about. We're doing it in different ways, but that is always, to me, the great thing when we come together, that we can help each other. And this is, of course, what Farm Africa does. It puts in place the infrastructure for us to be able to make a difference and to exchange knowledge. And, you know, I think for us to be able to learn from what Patience is doing as well, you know, as an organic coffee farmer, You know, the more we can share knowledge as farmers around the world, the better. And the point I made, just to finish on, Will, the other day, and for Patience to really take away with her, you know, the UK hosts probably the world's most important round of climate change discussions next year, the COP26. And I really passionately believe that the next decade is the decade of farmers, the decade of agriculture. And we're only going to make these changes by all of us, you and me, Patience, working together to build a better world on the back of it. So I just thank you for everything that you've said today. And I face the same challenges. We as farmers all face the same challenges. So Will, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Minette. Now, I also believe you have a question for each other. So let's go to your question for Patience first, Minette.
Patience, when I grew up, my father was pretty anti me becoming a farmer. And I now find myself really keen for my children to become farmers, but I also don't want to push that onto them. I want them to make their choices. So what I'm doing at the moment is building the business and saying the business is here for you if you want it, but if you want to go off and do something else, then that is your choice and I will support you. And I'm really interested to know if your children are keen to come and follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to have been asked that question. And my children are also following me in practicing agriculture, and they're also being trained in these good methods of farming. Thank you.
That's brilliant to hear. That really is.
Fantastic. Patience, have you got a question that you'd like to ask Minette as well, please?
I'm having a question. I've seen Minette is a good farmer and is keeping cattle, and I would like to know the size of her herd.
Patience, so we've got 100 breeding cows. So 100, what we call in the UK, we call them suckler cows because they are producing beef, they are producing meat, not milk. So in the UK, we call them suckler cows, and we've got 100 breeding cows. So at any time, we've probably got about 300 animals on the farm. But I think where the UK is really lucky is that we have consistent rainfall, a lot of rain, a lot of the time. So we grow grass, and it makes it quite easy in the UK to have livestock because we have the grass to feed them, which keeps our costs down and produces a high quality beef at the end of it. So that is my business. And we also have a wedding business. So people come here to get married, and because of COVID, no weddings at all, no dancing, no celebrating. We have restrictions in the UK where only 15 people can come to a wedding. So nobody wants to get married. So half of my business, not happening.
Already reached your target?
I missed that, Patience.
Could you repeat that, please, Patience?
Yeah, I'm asking Minette whether she has already reached her production targets.
Yes, but the weddings is a difficult thing, but the beef side of the business is good.
Fantastic. I just love the fact that farming is such a universal language. You know, wherever you're farming in the world, farmers can get together and just sort of share the things they have in common, can't they? Whatever climate or country you're in, you can just sort of chat farming together, can't you? So thank you very, very much, Minette and Patience. That was fantastic. Let's move on now to Grace and Stuart, and let's start with Grace's video from her farm, please.
I'm called Arineitwe Grace. I have a family of 7 people. Before Farm Africa came, we had a big challenge on pure quality coffee. And we used to strip all the ripe and unripe cherries of the branch. They brought us some trainings like leadership, girls. When Farm Africa brought us the Village Savings Loans Association boxes, I joined a group called Mbohabi Coffee Farmers. I borrowed money where I put into my projects like chicken keeping and piggery so that I can get income to donate my family. Kakati ndine nkurakurana abana basoma nesema Farm Africa nyo, may long live Farm Africa, may long live Uganda.
That was fantastic, thank you. Grace, we saw in your video there how access to finance can be crucial for enabling farm businesses to thrive. How common a problem is it for farmers to lack access to credit?
Up to 1,500 member farmers of Kayonza Coffee Growers Cooperative, 100 member farmers access loans from the bank. Reason being, few member farmers have a problem of the nearest credit banks, where we take like 70 kilometers to the nearest one. We still have a lack of financial education, where there is still a problem of traditional fear for member farmers to access loans. Next, we got a problem. We are affected by COVID-19, while we are the neighboring of Congo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Stuart, how does that compare to the situation here in the UK? Seems like access to finance can always be a problem for farmers, especially in the younger generation of farmers and new entrants.
Yeah, it can, Will, and I think sort of building on some of what Grace was saying there, and I think it's fantastic seeing these videos. It was delightful, Grace, to see your business, and I see, as Minette did before, I see real parallels. You know, you've spent, you know, much of your business now is about improving the quality of coffee, and actually what we've done on our farm is spent the last 10 years trying to improve the quality of our cereals. We're not going to be the biggest producer in the UK, but we think we do quality, and I think it's great that we have these opportunities to share these views with each other. When it comes to finance, Will, and I think this is one of the real shames that and I'm very lucky, I get to talk to lots of the banks, okay? It's part of what I do, it's part of the portfolio I've got. And often what you hear from banks and institutions and others is they're interested in backing people, okay? It's not necessarily about infrastructure, it's not necessarily about size or scale, it's about backing the right people. But I think often there are barriers that then get in the way of that, whether that be, you know, age, as you've said, or whether that be financial education. And Grace touched there about financial education being a challenge. You know, one of the challenges here is not about people not having exciting ideas or the ambition to do it, but actually, how do you write a business plan? How do you write a business plan that will then actually get through, if you like, the credit checks of a bank or the ambitions of a bank? And I think, you know, it's something that yeah, in the same way as Grace's community are learning about financial education, it's something that actually young farmers here also face that same challenge. And I think it just, again, as with Minette and Patience, it just shows how similar the views are wherever you are in the world. And the interesting thing I find, and one of the things I love about farming in general, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, is it's not just a business. So yes, it is a business, Will, and you've got a business, I've got a business, Grace has got a business that looks like it's going to be a very successful business going forward. But it's also a community, and communities support each other and look out for each other. And it doesn't matter that you are, you know, hundreds or thousands of miles apart, you're all part of that same community supporting each other. So very, very similar challenges here. Sometimes they may be a different scale, sometimes they may be by different causes, but actually the fundamental problems can quite often be the same.
Mm. Yeah, very much so. So I believe you also have a question for each other. Let's go to your question for Grace first, Stuart, please.
So Grace, I mentioned earlier that your business journey in some ways has been very similar to mine on my farm, in that we have basically spent all our time trying to improve quality. Okay, we don't believe our business will succeed by just producing quantity, and you've done the same. You have looked to improve the quality of your coffee, and from the video, very successfully. Where do you see, if you like, the next improvement in your business coming from? What's the next exciting thing you're going to change in your business or build into your business?
Great. Great. Grace, did you hear the question? Okay.
I'm trying to grow more coffee.
Very good.
You're trying to improve yields.
Well, look, Grace, if you try to grow more, I'll do my bit by trying to consume more for you.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that, especially at this time of the morning. Grace, have you got a question that you'd like to ask Stuart, please?
How do member farmers in your place access loans from the banks? And how far is it to reach the nearest bank? Then the next, how do you have disabled in your place? How do you handle those disabled?
So sorry, I missed the last bit there, Grace. The last part of your question?
I'm asking you, do you have disabled farmers in your place? And how do you handle disabled farmers in your place? Mostly in accessing loans. Do you also access loans from the banks?
Yeah, so in terms of, actually I'll do the first question which you asked, which is how far is the bank from me? Because that's a really easy question. So I live in quite an urban area. So I farm very near lots of cities and towns. So my nearest bank is half a mile away. It'll be much further away for people like Rachel who farm in more remote parts of the country. But my bank is about half a mile away. In terms of accessing finance, generally, if I have a business plan that the bank can see, they will support, they can see that actually that I will be able to repay that loan. Generally, it's relatively easy. In this country, we're quite lucky. The banks are quite supportive of agriculture. If I take the current COVID situation, for example, there are businesses that have been very badly hit by COVID, but actually farming as a whole has been quite a resilient sector. So actually accessing finance, if you've got the right business plan and you've got the right person, actually you can find finance. But for some people, it can be very difficult. In terms of disabled farming, it's something we are seeing. We are seeing farming in this country being much more embracing now. So actually, farming was dominated, if I go back a few years, by people like Will and myself. And now we are seeing a much more diverse farming industry with people from all sorts of backgrounds, with all sorts of and not disabilities, lots of different abilities, actually, I think is how I see it now. And a lot of this has been led in large part by Minette as well, who presents a phenomenally modern image of British agriculture and has embraced that diversity and that inclusiveness. And it's something we're seeing more of, but it is still a struggle. I think for many women farmers here, I think there is still a stereotype, and it can be a struggle. I think for disabled farmers here, I think it can be a struggle. For farmers of different sexual orientation, it can be a struggle. But we're making progress, is all I can say.
Thank you very much, both. Yeah, once again, it's just amazing how farmers can just find common ground and chat away, isn't it? I'm sure we could sit here and chat for hours, but time's ticking. So let's move on to Hildah and Rachel, and we'll start with a look at Hildah's video from her farm.
Traditionally, the coffee was for a man, and for us women, we were not benefiting anything from that coffee. They trained men to give us land use agreements so that us women, we can also benefit from the coffee producers. Farm Africa has trained us on girls where there is vision journey and soulmate vision. And now I'm saving in a Visla box to buy bricks. I will use that money from my goats to buy cement, and I will use money from the coffee. COVID-19, it has affected my vision. The price for coffee, it was reduced because there was no transport. It also affected our Visla boxes because we are not saving. We thank Farm Africa so much for it came. We had nothing, and now we are seeing an improvement.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Hildah. That was really, really moving. Let's start with a question to you, Hildah. We saw in the video how women are being held back from making a success of farming. What do you think the most important factor is enabling women to effectively participate in agriculture?
Thank you. There are some factors that has helped women in Kanungu effectively participate in agriculture. One, there has been access to land through voluntary land use agreements that were given us by our husbands. There has been leadership of women on board and committees, where these women have been acting as examples, other women behind there in villages. There has been trainings from our partners like Farm Africa based on girls, where it is gender action learning system methodology. For there, women have got more skills about there where they can make their soulmate vision and vision journeys for themselves. There has been government policies based on women improvement, where they are giving us coffee seedlings and garden tools like hose and bangers. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilda. That was a fantastic answer. Rachel, how does it compare with the situation in the UK? As Stuart mentioned, you know, the demographic of farming has changed dramatically, really, over the last 10 years or so. And I believe the fastest growing demographic in UK agriculture is young women. So what do you think the most important factor is enabling women to effectively participate in UK farming?
I think there's all sorts of different things, Will, but it really, for me, what I find really exciting, what Hilda's doing there is, you're so young, Hilda, and you're taking it yourself now. So you've been given an opportunity, and I guess that's what Farm Africa has done. It's given you an opportunity, and I think women are very good. We're very good at picking up opportunities and using them. And I think all the ladies on the call today are showing that, and Hilda, you in particular. And I think the young ladies in our country now in the UK are doing exactly the same. They're finding their own voice. And I know for myself, I'm 50 now. I'm getting a bit old now. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and she is probably stronger than I was at 20. And for me, that is very, very powerful. And these young ladies that are coming through now, they've got a different strength. And I think if we allow them and give them the opportunities, they will be any man's equal, if not better, because women are quite good at making decisions too. And we like to include other people in those decisions. We try to make decisions that suit everybody, not just men or just one person. And so for me, it's really exciting what you're doing, Hilda, and I think I can see exactly the same what's going on in this country. Bit by bit, we are getting there.
Fantastic, Rachel. And I believe you also have a question for Hilda as well, please.
I do, Hilda. I'm very sorry for asking this. How old are you?
24 years old.
You're 24 years old. Okay, so my son is 24 years old. And I just want to say to you, did you always want to do this? Did you want to do something different? Or did you always want to do this? Is your heart, is your passion in what you do?
I like farming because I found my parents were farmers. They taught me, and that's the business that we are doing in the Kanungu. So I love it so much.
Yeah. It shows, Hilda. It shows in your video. It shows in your smile. It shows. You should be really proud of what you're achieving for somebody so young.
Yeah, absolutely echo that. And Hilda, have you got a question for Rachel as well?
I would like to ask Rachel how they are ladies, they are free to use the land, and whether they are free to use the produces that is got from their land.
Okay, Hilda. Some are, more and more are, but there are still farms in our country where it is very male dominated, but it is getting better very, very quickly. I would say that we are not like you, but they have, if I think of my own mother, and my grandmother, then they were very much part of the farm, but oh, no, women, they don't know farming, but they did. Whereas now, women are recognised in their own right as women farmers. And I think you ladies will get there. You're a step behind us, but that's nobody's fault. And what you're doing now is proving what you can do. And I think by working together, you can be stronger and stronger.
Yeah, fantastic. That was brilliant, both. Thank you so much. And I really hope that when COVID eventually goes away, perhaps when we can all visit Uganda, we can come and see your house, Hildah, that I'm sure you're going to build very soon. So moving swiftly on, because I'm conscious of the time, let's move on to Adam. Adam, you have seen firsthand some of the progress of other Farm Africa projects, including the Growing Futures Horticulture Project in Western Kenya, also funded with UK aid match funding. And we have a few photos here that we're looking at now. Adam, you represent farmers in the northeast of England. What are the main similarities and differences you noticed between farming in the UK and Kenya?
I think, sort of following on from what other people have said, the huge number of similarities when we're in Kenya, but also in 2014, I visited Tanzania. But I suppose it sounds strange, but to say a similarity and a difference would probably be approaches to climate change. So we, a group of us visited Kenya 2 years ago, and I suppose the work that the farmers were doing there, they were planning for climate change that was happening to them now, in a way that perhaps farmers in our country, or the discussion that we're having in the UK is, we need to plan for this, for something that might happen or that will happen in the future, that the climate is changing. I really felt that the work that Farm Africa was doing to help farmers in Kenya was dealing with something that was happening now. They were at the forefront of that, if you like. And then I suppose a constant stream of similarities, really. I remember being with one group of farmers, and if I'd have closed my eyes, I could have been sat in a meeting of our farmers in somewhere in Yorkshire across the northeast, because as Stuart said before, we're not only a group of farmers running businesses, we're also a community, and it's a community of farming families. So the discussions that we've had in this call were very much the discussions that we had in Kenya and in Tanzania around access to land. How do we bring the next generation forward? How do we give everybody in the family an opportunity? A lot of discussions that we haven't discussed that much, maybe it'll come up in the questions, around the supply chain and fairness. How do we make sure that the farmers have the right share of risk and reward? And those are exactly the same discussions that we have in this country. So I think sometimes we look at different countries, different parts of the world, different climates, temperatures, crops that we're growing, and think it's all different. But I came back realizing that there's so many similarities. And that's why I love being involved with Farm Africa and continue to be.
Fantastic. And what support was Farm Africa giving to the farmers you met over there? And what kind of difference was that support making to the lives of the farmers on the ground there?
I think it was making a huge difference, not only from a farm business point of view, which we've been discussing here, but obviously people were able to invest in other things. Even back to thinking about being in Tanzania, somebody who I'm still in contact with, a farmer called Clemens, who we're in touch on WhatsApp. And one of the things that I can't believe is that I'm sometimes more in touch with Clemens in Tanzania on WhatsApp than I am with some farmers who don't have good broadband in the UK. But what Clemens was doing in Tanzania was he was being able to invest in another business as well. He was a joiner, a carpenter, and he was farming as well as doing that. People were able to send their children to school and not able to do that before. And then, particularly in Kenya, there was a huge move for people who've been away to school or to university to then come back to the farm, because the opportunities that Farm Africa were helping those farmers capitalize on meant that their children wanted to come back and be farmers. And I thought that was unbelievably exciting. Yeah, and I suppose the final thing I would say is the work that Farm Africa were doing was on the ground, rooted in people in their community. It wasn't somebody coming from miles away to tell people how to do things. It was properly everybody working together in that local area. And I think we've seen some of that as well in the examples in the videos from Uganda. And I think that's one of the benefits of Farm Africa, that it takes the skills and the knowledge that people have locally and shares it. And I think that's superb.
Fantastic. I can really see that that's what kept you getting out of bed on those early mornings to train for the marathon last year. All those memories of your time there. Just quickly before we move on to the questions, what is your abiding memory of the time? Have you got one particular memory that really sticks with you?
I do. I kind of mentioned it at the beginning. I remember being sitting in a meeting, and if I'd gone like that, I could have been sat in the UK. It was just different voices in a different country, but it was the same meeting. The issues were the same, and I just came back and thought, we've got so many things that we can share ideas, just like we're doing in this call now, and that's why I thought the work of Farm Africa was so important, because we're doing the same things. It's just at different scales, different levels, different countries, but they're the same issues.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adam. Right then, let's move on to the questions, because we've got lots of great ones coming through and quite a few to get through. So the first question is from David Davis, and this is to the ladies in Uganda. So Patience, perhaps you'd like to answer this one. Are there not traditional Ugandan farming methods that work based on local experience, etc., or is coffee quite a new crop to you and farmers in the area?
Farmers have been growing it. It's not new in Uganda.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. To what extent do the UN Sustainable Development Goals influence such initiatives? Minette, perhaps we'll direct that one to you.
Well, I think the UN Sustainable Development Goals sort of underpin everything, really, and particularly as the world effectively enters the race to net zero as climate change takes ever greater prominence. I think the sustainability goals are a universally, globally recognized way of all the responsibility that we as citizens hold and what ultimately we need to achieve. So I've got the badge that many people have, including our Prime Minister, with all the different colours representing the goals. And I think it's brilliant to see how globally recognised that is. When I was out in Zambia for the World Farmers General Assembly in 2016, they underpin the world's goals, and particularly for us as farmers, I think they sit as fundamental values to underpin everything we do in producing not just food, but fibers, coffee, everything that we produce in a sustainable way. Those goals underpin it all.
Okay. And a question from Harriet Irwin, and this is for Hildah, really. Is youth engagement a challenge for the Kanungu Cooperative? And are they delivering any initiatives to specifically target young farmers?
Pardon?
Do you want me to ask again? Okay. Is youth engagement a challenge for the Kanungu Cooperative? Are the cooperative delivering any initiatives that are aimed specifically at young farmers?
Thank you. The youth, they are following us in the coffee farming because they are seeing us as examples, and they are seeing coffee gardens giving them an income, so they are effectively participating with us. Though they don't have their own land, but these land use agreements, we their parents, we are giving them a share of land, and they are planting their coffee themselves. And we have got these extension officers, they are guiding them on how they can plant, and they manage their coffee.
Okay, thank you. And a question for all of you ladies over there in Uganda. A question from Liz Thomas. She wants to know, do you all drink coffee at home? Are you big coffee drinkers?
You drink coffee? For us in Uganda, we plant coffee, but we taking coffee, it is not common, because they take that coffee to Kampala, they sell that coffee to those who have a lot of money, and for us, we drink the rest.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Do you have a problem with birds eating the coffee berries? We've got a question from a farmer over here in the UK. They grow cherries, and they want to know if the birds are a problem with the coffee berries over there.
No, it's not a problem of parents.
You don't have a problem. Oh, okay. And we've got a question here. I'm going to direct this one to Stuart. Question from Ivan. Wants to know about crop insurance in the UK, and obviously it's a big thing in countries like the US, and there's a lot of talk about it recently in the UK. But where do you think the role for crop insurance in the future is for farmers in the UK?
I think it's a really interesting one, Will. I go back to something that Adam said, where I think it was when he was in Kenya, he was seeing, if you like, the effects of climate change, whereas here we're talking about them coming up a few years ago. But actually now, we are very much seeing those effects. You know, we've seen in all parts of the UK in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen more floods, we've seen more droughts, we've seen hailstorms. And I think all of a sudden that crop insurance discussion that has never really taken off in this country potentially becomes quite an interesting debate. There's been lots of talk about different risk management or risk insurances. It's not really, there isn't a huge market at the moment and access to a huge market at the moment. But it could well be something, I think, as we go forward, and as Minette very rightly earlier on talked about how we contribute to helping climate change, but we're also, as farmers in all parts of the world, having to deal with the consequences of climate change. And I think crop insurance in this country may well play into that as we have to deal with those consequences going forward. But at the moment, it isn't. The financial cushions we've got, and it's very interesting having this debate today, because we had a big announcement yesterday about changing some of the big financial cushions in England, well, even if not in your part of the world. But going forward, that will come under more of a spotlight.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I'm going to bring Innocence in here. I'm going to ask you a question, Innocence. Do you sell your produce through a middleman? Because when Libby was visiting villages in Uganda in 2019, the houses owned by middlemen were always much bigger than anyone else's. So how can this change so that farmers receive a greater share of the sale proceeds?
Thank you. Innocent Asimwe is my name. I'm a vice chairperson, Kanungu Farmers Cooperative Society Limited. I have 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. I have 3 workers working in my coffee farm, and I have a husband. Okay, the question you have been asking me, I cannot sell my coffee to the middlemen. In our area, we call them middlemen. Instead, I dry my coffee in a better way. Then after, I take my coffee using a vehicle to the coffee hulling machine in our cooperative. They hull my coffee. After getting clean coffee, my cooperative is the one that buys that coffee. Thank you.
Thank you, Innocence. That's brilliant. Thank you. Those middlemen, same for farmers all around the world. Look, got a question for Tim Jury. Actually, we'll keep you on, Innocence, if you wouldn't mind asking this as well, answering this as well. Sorry. How easy was it to establish cooperatives where you are? Because in the UK, perhaps we could learn a lot from that, as we generally don't share our challenges and cooperate in this way.
Okay. To form a cooperative, really, it is not something very easy, but we tried to organize farmers first. Then after organizing the farmers, they get interest of making an organization. Because when you have an organization, that's when you can say one word and it is being heard by the government. When you are one, it is not easy to hear your voice, but when you are many as an organization, they can hear you and they give you what you want. So, and even it is easy for some of the organizations like Farm Africa to get us, but when you are one, they cannot get you. So that's the reason as to why we come up as an organization, which is called cooperatives. And now it is easy for us to get loans from our cooperatives. We take those loans to our farms using better methods of farming. And after we get high yields. When we get high yields, we can also get more money from our coffee farmers. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Innocence. And I think we've just got time for one more. So I'll ask Hilda this question. Is a question from Christian Steismark. Is organic growing a demand from the buyers? So do you have to produce organic coffee to be able to sell to the buyers?
Pardon?
Does the coffee that you produce have to be organic before you can sell it to the buyers?
I produce organic coffee because our cooperatives have got a policy. If you don't produce organic coffee, they cannot buy it at the cooperative level. So I must make sure, and I try by all means, so that I can produce organic coffee, sell at my cooperative.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Hildah. And we'll just throw one more question in very, very quickly, Rachel. This is a question from Lucy Sly. What else do you think can be done in Uganda and the UK to encourage young women to pursue careers in farming?
Well, crikey, Lucy. Things like this, to be quite honest, I think we just need to talk more. I think we need to engage more as much as possible with the next generation coming through. And I don't think we need, we perhaps shouldn't talk at them. We should use our ears. We should listen. It's their future. It's not our future. It is our children's future. And it's for them to learn through their mistakes just as we did, but to allow them to do that.
Okay, quite agree. Okay, well, unfortunately, we have run out of time. It's 10:30, so we're going to have to wrap up and close. Our apologies if we didn't get round to your question. This webinar has been recorded, as mentioned in the intro, and will be accessible shortly on the Farm Africa website at farmafrica.org/Farm Africa Live. I know I found it incredibly inspiring to meet Grace, Hildah, Patience and Innocence today and find out more about life in Kanungu and Farm Africa's work there. So thank you so much to the four of you and to the Farm Africa Kanungu team for joining us today. And a big thank you also to our UK panelists, Minette, Stuart, Adam and Rachel. This is the last Farm Africa Live webinar of 2020, but the webinars will be back again next year. In the meantime, places are still available to join Farm Africa's free virtual carol concert at 7 p.m. on the 16th of December. I will be there and I hope you will be too. I would encourage you all to book a place for that at farmafrica.org/carols. And thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thanks, Will.